Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Zimbabwe Daily. My name is Yvonne Muchaka, and I bring you the special water series. And this week, we are looking at water quality and wastewater. What does that even mean? When we have good quality water, what does that translate to? When we don't have that same, what does that really mean exactly? Vanhu Zimbabwe, trungo kia when it comes to water, because water is life as we all know it. But what is the solution? Is there hope in sight for us to ever get to a place where we have safe, clean, quality water? Good water quality is essential to human health, social and economic development, and the ecosystem. However, as populations grow and natural environments become degraded, ensuring there's sufficient and safe water supplies for everyone becomes increasingly challenging. So a major part of the solution is to produce less pollution and improve the way we manage wastewater. So the question is, are we managing our wastewater in Zimbabwe? And how can we make use of this wastewater? Because from research and from reading around, I've noticed that we have enough wastewater that if we manage to clean it nicely and if we manage to manage our wastewater systems well, we may not have so much challenges in terms of supplying good quality water to the people. This morning, allow me to ask my guests to introduce themselves so that we are able to unpack this conversation deeper. Over to you, Mr. Mawetera.
Good morning, Yvonne. Good morning, viewers. Wastewater is a real challenge for Zimbabwe, and wastewater could be defined as any water that has been used for, that we have used for other activities, and then we see it as a byproduct, as a waste, as something that is not usable. And yet, in the current environment, in the current socio-economic environment, we find that there is nothing that is called wastewater. It is actually water that is now being used for other things. So it's actually, we can reuse the water several times so that we conserve water and deal with the water scarcity that we are grappling with, and also deal with the degradation of the ecosystem and the environment. Because when we throw that into the environment, we are destroying that environment. But what we see in Zimbabwe is that the water that we call dirty and which we have used, we throw it away. Because we don't look at the issue of recycling it or the issue of reusing it. We make it so dirty that reusing it and recycling it becomes very expensive. And yet what we should be doing right from the onset is to make sure that the water that we call wastewater is wastewater in terms of one set of activities, and it can go on to be used in another set of activities and another set of activities so that we can use it 4 or 5 times. So at the end of the day, we are saying we should create wastewater responsibly with the view that that water can be used somewhere else and can be used for something else. But what we find is not the case. And I think it's an area, Yvonne, that we need to exploit, that we need to discuss, and that we need to invest in.
Awesome. I see you went right into it. So I'm excited that you're passionate about this particular topic. I was asking you to introduce yourself to our viewers, so you can now introduce yourself, Mr. Mawese.
Thank you very much. That was my introduction. That's me. Shangwa Mavesera is my name. I'm the former town clerk of Bindura municipality, but very passionate about water and sanitation right from the word go, and I wish to proceed with it, and hence I'm on this program. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Mawese. Over to you, engineer.
For the opportunity. My name is Engineer Mesin Mwe. I'm the current principal engineer with Bulawayo City Council, responsible for the distribution system.
Awesome. Thank you so much, engineer, for joining us. Over to you, engineer Mbiza.
Good afternoon, Zimbabwe. My name is Happy Mombiza, and I'm very happy to be part of this show today. We have been discussing a lot of issues pertaining to water in the previous weeks, and we hope to continue talking about water up until it becomes known to everyone that everyone has a role to play as far as the management of water is concerned. And
Right.
I think I'll just stop here for the introductions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Mawesera, you went right into defining for us what wastewater is. I'm going to ask Engineer Ncube to tell us what quality water, on the other hand, is.
Thank you so much. When we say quality water, I think it is a various meanings depending on the use, on the purpose. For example, if we're talking of drinking water, we were looking at water that has minimal or no bacteria, viruses, and anything that may cause harm to your health. That is what we can call quality water. But like I'm saying, people use water for different purposes, and quality can be different in terms of purpose. For example, industrial use, yes, we need quality water, but the levels of the cleaning or the treatment is also different. So basically, in terms of health for drinking purposes, we are looking at water with minimum pathogens or without pathogens or viruses or anything else that is ready or potable that we can put in our pots as we define as potable water. To me, that is basically the basic definition of quality water without going into much details of the chemistry, the physical parameters of the water.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. We're coming to you live on Zimbabwe Daily. So if you want to be to participate in this conversation, please do feel free to send in your message. We'll be able to read them right here as we are broadcasting to you. I have in the studio Mr. Mawesera Shangwa. I have Engineer Messi Ncube and Engineer Happy Mombiza in the studio to unpack this topic for us. And we're not particularly looking at a particular city or we're just looking at water, the quality of water that we have here in Zimbabwe. And when we look globally, we have seen that there are challenges and there continue to be challenges around wastewater management because freshwater sources are becoming fewer as populations grow. So we need to look at how can we carefully manage every part of the water cycle from freshwater, freshwater abstraction, pre-treatment, distribution, use, collection, and post-treatment to the use of this treated water. Remember last week when we were talking about this water issue, we mentioned that as end users of this water, we also have a responsibility to make sure that the cycle does not stop. Now, I want to come to you, Engineer Mbiza, and I want you to help me to unpack. You've had vast experiences when you observed in the Asian world, in South Africa, how they treat their water and stuff like that. So maybe you can start by telling us, when I then say as a citizen, I have got quality water in my home, what does that take? Sorry, I see you're on mute. Please go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for allowing us this opportunity again to talk to you about water issues that are affecting us as a nation, as a continent, and also generally globally. But today I want to highlight the very important fact that, as citizens, we are the people who have the most important role to play as far as the quality of water is concerned, because it is us who are also responsible for making sure that we receive the expected quality from the authorities who are giving us the water so that we can use it. So from a global standpoint, I want people to understand that wastewater is an issue everywhere in the world. And it is in how us as residents, as people, as the users, respond to the environment or to water itself. So it is very important that we understand that whatever we are battling with here in Zimbabwe, everyone else is battling with that. But it is in how we manage, it is in how we respond to that. So I will talk about the very fact that we have water that we call wastewater. Mr. Mavesera highlighted that it's not the best way to call it. I would like to call it a resource. To me, when I look at it, I see a resource. It's just like a resource, like any other resource, but it's a resource that has a lot of human input, and it needs some form of processing so that it's beneficial to the people. So as Zimbabwe, I'm coming back now to Zimbabwe. You realize that we produce a lot of wastewater here, and people may want to know that all the water that we use in our homesteads, about 80% of that is converted to wastewater. So you can imagine how much wastewater, how much in terms of volumes we generate per day as a nation. So let us be in a position to say, should we throw away this wastewater that we've generated? We need to start thinking that way, because globally, that's how people are thinking. They're saying, can we wait up until we abstract more water from the rivers, from the dams, yet we have water that is already close to us, water that we've already taken into our vicinity, which is what we call wastewater. I want to applaud the government for having allowed, this nation to grow to where it is today. We have set up infrastructure in all urban local authorities as we see it. We also have this infrastructure in rural district councils. There are certain countries that actually don't have this form of infrastructure. But I think our administrations have been able to set up infrastructure so that we can be able to manage this water and wastewater. So there's infrastructure for water, and then there's infrastructure for wastewater. And it is important that we understand that at this point in time, as a nation, we are not able to benefit from the wastewater that we are generating every day. How do we intend to benefit? We would like to see wastewater recycling, and we would like to see it being reused. And we also want to be able to produce energy at the wastewater treatment plants. Look at the designs that we have. For example, if you go to Fair Wastewater Treatment Plant that is here in Harare, you realize that the infrastructure was built in such a way that they can actually produce and collect methane on site. This methane can then be used to make energy that can then run the wastewater treatment plant itself. If they produce more than enough, then it can also be put into the national grid. You see, so that's one benefit from wastewater. We can also recycle this wastewater and actually use it as a resource to take it back to the tap from the wastewater treatment plant. You can retrofit the wastewater treatment plant to make sure that you are treating your effluent on site and using that effluent again to feed back to the people. Now you take less water from Lake Chivero. Now you abstract less water. Now you have to take less water from the bores themselves. You can also think about using the effluent for irrigation. If you look at the wastewater treatment plants that are here in Zimbabwe, most of them, you see there are farms around these wastewater treatment plants. In the planning phases of this setup, there was an understanding that effluent should be used for irrigation. So we do partial treatment and then we leave the nutrients in the water so that these nutrients can then benefit the vegetation that we are irrigating or the crops that we are irrigating. So this is what I can say now, Yvonne, to say, as a nation, let us think about how do we sustain ourselves using wastewater? How do we then improve also the water that we are putting into the environment? And, we also want to give Emma less work to do, Yvonne, and say, instead of Emma giving us fines every day, I'm sure Engineer Ngube knows about this. And also Mr. Mavesera, definitely. When they monitor our effluent, we don't want them to police us. We want them to give us compliments to say we are able to meet the required global standards for effluent release into the environment. So With that being said, talking about effluent release into the environment now takes us back to water quality. I am seeing that from the experience that I have locally, we don't have the relevant and necessary infrastructure, Yvonne, that can support the water quality systems that we need as a nation. Most wastewater treatment plants do not have laboratories. And if they have any infrastructure, it's not functional at this point in time. So you will realize that we are putting wastewater into the environment, and we are not even sure what kind of wastewater are we sending out into the environment. And now this is where
That sounds
Emma has to come.
dangerous. That actually sounds very, very dangerous. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, it's very dangerous, Yvonne, because I want to talk to you about what we call, let's say, pharmaceuticals, for example, and and personal care products. If you look at the population of Zimbabwe, and in most cases, most Africans, or let's say globally, most people are on medication, Yvonne. And wastewater treatment plants are not able to remove these medicines or these personal care products, hair products, mafuta monozora, all these kinds of soaps. Wastewater treatment plants are not able to remove this from water or from wastewater right now as I'm talking to you. The world is battling to come up with improved processes, improved systems that can actually remove these pharmaceuticals from wastewater. And now we are loading tablets unknowingly. You know, everyone pees. We go to the loo, we are peeing into this water, and then we flush. When you are flushing, you are taking tablets. At times, even if you're on pills, if you pee, you can tell that your pee is smelling some
Right.
tablets.
Yeah.
That doesn't go away, Yvonne. It goes straight to the wastewater treatment plant. And what is happening in the wastewater treatment plant? There's some form of stabilization, you see, but then the wastewater treatment plants are not taking out all these pills. Industries are also putting chemicals. You know, they are manufacturing soap somewhere, they are manufacturing whatever they're manufacturing, but all these things are not being taken out of wastewater. And then it is the same wastewater that we then receive in Lake Chivero, Yvonne. And then we have a water treatment plant which is abstracting straight direct from Lake Chivero. And we are using the conventional system. When it was designed, no one ever thought about personal care products. No one ever thought about pharmaceuticals. What are our people eating, Yvonne? What are our people drinking? If you remember in the last discussion, there is a point where I said people should not take comfort in boiling water and then they say, oh, my water is fine. That's not where it ends. You know, when you boil water before you drink it or before you use it, yes, it is correct because you are taking care of the microorganisms, the pathogens.
Right.
But what is happening in the general water chemistry? That's what most people don't know, especially
Right.
water that contains chlorine. The most available disinfectant that we have right now for water treatment is chlorine, Yvonne. And chlorine reacts with organic matter, at certain temperatures to form what we call trihalomethanes. Engineer Ncube knows this. And these are very carcinogenic compounds, Yvonne, that are causing a lot of colon cancer, and they are causing a lot of all forms of cancer. And then we are saying, as a nation, let us be aware. As a nation, let us think about how then do we help ourselves so that we don't start thinking about why is that cancer is on the rise nowadays. As we grew up, there was no cancer. But then, remember, without clean water, the world is dead. And right now, we should be thinking about what do we do to improve our systems so that we can take care of these kinds of systems. I'm glad that, there was someone who was talking about public-private partnerships in treating water and wastewater.
Yeah. Right.
Yes, I think the government needs to consider having public-private partnerships. I believe that there is a lot of local skill here, Yvonne. Zimbabweans are capable.
But
but we need to be given the opportunity. We need to be given the chance. And at times, when you look at people of our nature, people say these guys are too young to tell us about water treatment. We've been treating water ever since. But we are saying the world has changed. There is
Right.
new knowledge. There is new knowledge, Yvonne, and the government needs to make use of this new knowledge. The government
Right.
has educated. They have educated us, but they should not let us walk in the streets with all this knowledge up until we die. Let's get platforms that share this knowledge, like what we are doing now. And it should be known that there is local talent. The local people are capable of doing these things. If we have people who are coming from outside, let them come to help us, but we should know our terrain. We already know our terrain, Yvonne. We chose not to go and live in the diaspora as much as we have the opportunities, but we want to
Right.
help our people. We are
Right.
citizens, we are residents. This is why you have all these people around here. So for now, I will stop here and then we continue. Thank you.
Okay, this seems to be a very deep topic. I'm realizing now because Mr. Mawe said I wouldn't introduce himself until he introduces the topic, and now Engineer Mpiza, you have just been on a roll. I'll come to you, Engineer Ngube. You're working directly in councils. What are the processes in council towards ensuring that residents have got good quality water in our industries, in our homes, and what is the wastewater, management system that you are putting in place in your city?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yvonne, once more. I think Happy Mo really tried to venture into the more details and very scary stuff. But anyway, I'll also try not to be very hard on the facts, but it is true wastewater is a challenge, and we really need to make sure that we are really taking this issue seriously, because I'm always surprised, even with my colleagues here, when we say let's concentrate on water without concentrating on the wastewater. We don't call it wastewater because it's still water to us as the water experts. It's still water, like he said, it's a resource, and it's still water to us. But basically what happens is there are different systems in every city, like city in the country as a whole, where we are saying water is abstracted from different sources. For example, boreholes, that is groundwater. Then we have dams where most of the local authorities are getting water from. And then also maybe some are even directly abstracting from rivers and for their water supply. Once that water is abstracted as water, it goes through different or various processes for treatment, which we'll just briefly go through. From once the water is abstracted, whether it's coming from the dam, it's coming from the borehole, is then directed into the treatment plants, which differ in sizes and in terms of the water quality that we are talking about. There are many, like Epimo has just said, most of the treatment plants that you find in countrywide were done maybe in the 40s, in the 60s. Very few were done maybe in the 80s or 90s, or maybe they are being done now. Yes, so you find that most of the treatment plants that are there are mostly conventional treatment systems that are sometimes not ready for these impurities that we find in the water. But basically, when you abstract your water, it then is taken into the treatment plant through various methods of abstraction, and then it goes through the different chemicals that are put in place depending on the quality of the water. Say, for example, maybe in Bulawayo, where I'm currently working, we abstract our water from the dams from the east, and then we discharge it into the south or to the north side. We are not really doing like what others are doing, discharging and abstracting from the same point, like other cities. Yes. So that's the only difference. But the issue is about that raw water that is coming into the treatment plant. Water then goes
Could it
through.
be the reason why Blawayo has, one of the best water quality in our country?
It could be, but Mutare has the best.
Oh,
Mutare
I
is
see.
coming from the pristine environment. It's from the mountains, so you expect water to be. That's why you find they use less chemicals, and the chemicals differ on the quality and the whatever of the water, of the raw water. So from the raw water goes through sedimentation. Now just pass through the different stages. It goes through sedimentation. In most councils, we are using aluminum sulfate for our coagulation and flocculation. From there, we then filter the water using different types of filtration systems. Some are using rapid send gravid filters, the conventional ones. Some are not even filtering. I don't know whether some are even filtering because maybe some of their filtration systems are not working properly, but water goes through filtration. After filtration, some of the bacteria is removed through this process, and some of it is goes to the next stage, which is disinfection. From disinfection, we are using mainly chlorine, I think most people use chlorine, the gas or the powder, the granules part of the chlorine. Yes, that's basically, these are the basics processes that is the water is undergoing through in the country. Then for disinfection, we're using chlorine, and then at distribution point, we should be having different points where we are checking and redosing with chlorine so that we make sure that the disinfection, the chlorine is maintained, what we call residual chlorine in the system. So that's basically the process for the water quality. So we are expecting that by the time water gets to your tap, it is a certain amount of chlorine to disinfect against all these bacteria and everything, and it is undergone through this whole process. But challenges are there in terms of the water treatment plants themselves, where we are finding now that sometimes these are mainly depending on the power. And these days, I think you can see we have challenges of power supply. So some treatment plants are not working due to one reason or the other because of the power supply. And also some of these treatment plants are old and dilapidated. They need upgrades. We have different things now that are coming up into the water, like for example, the gold panning activities that are happening now all over the country is also compromising the quality of the water that is coming into the treatment plants. So rightfully said, we need to upgrade our treatment plants so that they are able to cater for these impurities that are coming through the different sources of the treatment plants. That's on the water treatment side. When it comes now then to the wastewater treatment, the same water that you have drunk, you have cooked with, bathed and everything else finds its way again. That's why we're saying it's still the same water, but now in a different, maybe more, it's carrying other things, but it's still water that we want to use it as a resource. So from there, when you flush your toilets, you find that the water is now either through the septic tanks, which are mainly on-site treatment plants within different sizes of the stands. The other ones, they now go through the reticulation, and we find that most of the outflow sewers, it goes through the outflow sewers to the treatment plants. The treatment process for both water and sewer are basically the same. Water still goes through the same sedimentation, filtration in a different mode, but these are simply the similar processes, of which we are saying initial designs showed that we needed to have 20% of that water recycled for agriculture, for stadia, for school grounds. That's why you find most of this. But we are saying that 20% is not enough. We need more. We need to make sure that all that water that has finally got to the treatment plant is coming back as a resource, especially for non-potable use, industrial use. Some people don't need very high quality water so that you can clean your tires, for example, or you can cool your boilers. We need this water back into the system. So some cities, yes, they have got a developed system for the recycling system, which was tackling the issues of these parks, the stadium, and all these school grounds. Some do, some don't. Yes, but this is what is happening currently in the local authorities countrywide. Then from there, we have the recycling part, and then we have the sludge system, which is the solid part of the wastewater, where some local authorities are still processing that and selling if they've gone through the treatment of that sludge, of that treatment. So this is the ideal situation, but different challenges are all over the city, all over the country. We need to make sure that these systems are in place. We also mentioned the issue of methane gas that is being produced in these various treatment plants. We also need them to make sure that these plants are also functional and we use that energy for supplying of the either through the treatment plant system, or you can even get it into the issue of into the grid. We have power shortages, but we have power that we can get from the wastewater that we are saying is wastewater, which is a resource. So basically, that's the kind of process. But what we are finding now is that because of maybe the darkest hour or the darkest whatever part of the country where we went through the difficult times, councils were no longer able to do the routine maintenance of, especially of the outflow sewers. So you find the sewer is now finding its way into the rivers within the cities or even just outside the boundaries of the cities. And in some cases, or unfortunately, that is the same source where they have to abstract that water for drinking purposes as well. So this is the issue that is happening now in the country. But I think as our government has really made an effort to make sure that they are supporting the local authorities through the various intergovernmental transfer funds, where some outflow sewers, treatment plants are being rehabilitated. But what we are saying as engineers within the local authorities, we should be wary of how, not just putting back what was there, but as we rehabilitate, we should now think of optimizing these systems to cater for the current needs and putting some retrofits to cater for the impurities that were not initially designed for. And if possible, make these treatment plants treatable, or maybe make these treatment plants be able to treat these other impurities that we are finding now, like these carcinogenic things, the trihalomethanes, and even viruses. We should be able to have such kind of treatment plants especially in our wastewater and our recycling plants. So this is what I can just say is the whole, just to give you a rough rundown of the treatment process for both water and wastewater. But I think, yes, we have a challenge. Most local authorities are finding it very difficult to maintain these big lines. They are very big. Sometimes some of the spares are not available locally, and we have to find ourselves fighting and running away and fighting with EMA in terms of the penalties of the environmental pollution and all that. So I thought maybe that could be what you just think we should do as local authorities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Engineer Ngobe. You make some very thought-provoking presentations there, and I'm sure even those of us who are following online, we are actually baffled by some of the information that we're receiving. So we're coming to you live on Zim Daily. Please feel free to continue sending in your questions, your contributions, and let's get talking. Thank you so much. Emmanuel Kudakwashe Weru, you say you're following this program, and you say thank you for putting up this program. I need to know, we have engineers that are very much qualified, and they use tax money to go across the world and learn on how to treat water safe for drinking for the nation and how to discharge wastewater. The problem comes on why they don't account on to the top bosses at the procurement in the towns and councils, because they know by now how much chlorine or chemicals needed to pure water for safe drinking to their fellow citizens. They know on how much. I'm sure he was still typing them. Mnyaradzi Masia, thank you so much for coming through with that question. And I come straight to you, Mr. Mawesera, being someone who was at the helm of, the council, the clerks council. I need to know, do you as town clerks, do you as the top bosses at councils understand some of the technical things that our engineers here have highlighted, the importance of making sure that our treatment centers are well rehabilitated and they're upgrading? Are you listening to some of the requests that they make when they present their papers, or it continues to be another issue that is placed at the back of, financial priorities for cities? Over to you, Mr. Mawesera.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Senior officials in council are quite aware of all these things that happen. Mind you, when engineers do their work, they are not doing it alone. The local authorities are run on committee basis. They are run on a collective basis.
Mr. Mawesera, I'm not too sure if you've got another device switched on. We're getting a little bit of feedback from your end. We are failing to hear you properly.
Let me move again. What I was saying.
Better?
That's better.
Yes.
Yes. What I was saying was that the top municipal employees are quite aware of what's happening, and almost all managers are actually aware, because local authorities are run on a committee system. They are run collectively. Even the director of housing is aware of what the engineers are talking about, because these are talked about in meetings. And when budgets are being done, we have to understand why this budget line has been put in place. Why do you want this? So at the end of the day, I would say that this information is known by everyone. And this information is then upscaled to council. And then the reason why you find that government is putting in money through intergovernmental transfers, sometimes specifically for water and wastewater, sometimes specifically for wash, it is because the leaders, the town clerks or the accounting officers have had dialogue with national government to say, where are our problems? Where should we put the money that's coming? So that one is very clear. But I think what's more important at a managerial level, and also for the nation to know, is where is the problem? Why can't we get quality water at the end of the tap at every household?
Where is the problem?
The problem is multifaceted. Every one of us is a problem. We can start off with the treatment. Our good engineers were talking about the treatment. That treatment is a council management issue. But at that level, the issue of technology becomes an issue. Is the technology advanced enough to deal with the issues that we are talking about? The engineers have talked about that. That some of the technology may not be up to scratch. Some of the technology, yes, maybe, and we need to upgrade. So that's one level. At that same level, we also have the issue of workmanship. Sometimes in a process, workmanship affects the product. Then we also have the issue of financing in terms of chemicals, in terms of the whole, that's at the treatment plant. And if things don't work well there, we can't have quality water.
Mr. Mawesera, can you explain workmanship? Can you please explain workmanship? What do you mean?
When we talk of workmanship, we're talking of how people and resources interact to produce a product. Are the people mixing correctly what they should mix? Is there proper management? Is there proper maintenance? All those things that then in the activities within the processing of the water. If they are done properly, then there's good workmanship. If they are not done properly, then there's bad workmanship, and the result will tell us. All I'm saying is this is a potential area where we are not able to produce quality water.
That's fine.
It has got solutions to it. The second is on transportation. Engineers talk of it as reticulation. I call it where the transportation of water, whether it's in it, Bowsers, or is in the tap, there is contamination along that route. And this contamination will have the supplier, who is the management in terms of maintenance of those pipes. But we now have the consumer involved. We now have the other people involved in making this water that was clean and quality water at the treatment plant, and during transportation, it is now contaminated. You have people digging up areas, puncturing a pipe. We don't realize that when we puncture a pipe, which passes through contaminated soil or ground, We already have introduced contamination into the water, and we can't get quality water at home. When we go back home, we will not get quality water. But it is not because of the treatment plant. It is now because of me who was digging up rats or mice or digging up or mbambaira or something. So during the transportation, there is a big issue there. And that's where the issue of wastewater comes in. When we throw wastewater everywhere, when we throw garbage everywhere, it makes the ground dirty. And therefore, whenever there is a puncture or there is some leak somehow, some opening, all that then goes into our water, and we don't get quality water. But that's us now. We now are together with the management. At the end of the day, when the water gets to my tap, I can't blame the next person, because we have then to trace to say where was the contamination from. We also have the issue of scarcity of water as a cause. We have pipes that are periodically empty. And you know what happens when pipes are empty, they are periodically empty, then contamination, they get contaminated one way or another. And therefore, we can't get the quality water that we want. Nowadays, we have macrocosa, using all different chemicals and throwing the water all over. And when we get those punctures in our pipes, we are again getting those chemicals. And Engineer Mbiza was talking about the chemicals that are then difficult to treat. Then the issue of cleanliness in the home. You find that people do all sorts of things, use all sorts of chemicals in their hair, in trying to make themselves lighter, and a lot of other things, and they just throw this away. And when that happens, we are making the ground dirty, which ground is transporting our water. And if there's any accident anywhere, what it means is we actually are now getting back the chemicals that we ourselves used, because our homes, we are not used to cleanliness in our homes. And the issue of disposal becomes a big issue, because in terms of our clean water, our medical waste is very critical. Our waste from the industries, Lake Chivero is a problem, mostly because industries are just throwing away wastewater that whose components we don't know. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is quality water depends on all of us. If we start looking at council management or council or national government, we will have a problem, because we have not traced. And therefore, it is important, in my view, that there is a discussion on this point. As a nation, we should be asking ourselves, where are we in terms of quality water? Where are we in terms of wastewater? So that each one of us takes responsibility. Once we do that, the issue of buying so many chemicals, the issue of spending so much money becomes less, because we have lessened the contamination of the water that we want as clean water. So each one of us has got a responsibility towards clean water. And that's the management level where we are, to say we need to educate everyone now. We need to come to the table, everyone, and say, how can each one of us contribute to quality water? But firstly, by understanding what is my role in creating dirty water in the first place.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mawesera. We just want to listen to this audio that people sent through earlier in the morning.
Honestly, we know that water is life. And we are somehow worried, especially us and Manokara, high density suburbs, because sometimes from Monday to Thursday, then weekend, inenge siko. Sometimes no to Thursday and Friday, inenge siko. Then paino we are probably inenge akato shiba mvurai, inenge akashibisa. Then but pani my improvements, or sometimes we are chena. But yagadzana, so you need to see that this water is dirty and we cannot drink it. And it's not in the kuma bowls, kunochera mvura. And kuma bowl, kwachona kana historical kunenge kune wondo. Vanenge vachipindira azvina kana order, you know, my ghetto communities. So we are very worried. I don't know kuti is the council doing something kuti tinyaso wana mvura.
Our infrastructure is now inadequate to meet the needs of the people. And we cannot rely on boreholes and then sit back. We need a new blueprint of infrastructure, and then we need to resolve the differences between local government and national government. National government cannot just say, listen, it's a local government issue, because it affects every citizen. What we need is cooperation with the government, so that we need a blueprint of water. Even if it's going to take the next 2 to 3 years to fix it, it's okay, because we know beyond that, this problem will not continually have. This just has to happen, because, as I said earlier on, it clearly affects the quality of life of people, right? And water is key. The issue of disease and stuff like that become perennial. So it's time to be serious and to actually come up with a holistic solution to this problem.
Okay, so in towards an extension, council water supply is not a problem. The water is always available, most, if not all of the times. But the problem is that the water is not clean. It's not safe for consumption, because sometimes if you take the water, you would get sick. People would resort to going to bowls to fetch water, drinking water, which would be more safer.
Kwedu kuno ku quality yemvura inosiyana siyana. Sometimes we are happy as though it's clean, like nasi which are clean, but sometimes brown chacha, you're not sure what to eat daga or what was missed, but then you can never be sure of what it is. But then like Zinwa is just we are not certain of the water quality, especially because of the way the water looks. So
Right. Other people think that coffee is coming out of their taps. Monyaradzi Masia says, sir, you can't blame citizens for periodically empty pipes, whereby the technology of water delivery was supposed to change 25 years ago. And you know that as an engineer, stop putting a blame on citizens on things that were supposed to be changed by you. So the people really feel that the biggest letdown has been the people at the helm of our councils. You have not done what needs to be done. Has education been done in our communities in terms of how our disposal of water, for instance, impacts how we receive back that water? Has education been done on the citizen to understand the whole process of water treatment and what it means to us when we don't, when we don't actually receive water on the taps, and as such, maybe when we do our washing and we throw the water onto the ground rather than maybe back into the pipes? Has such education been done, Engineer Ncube?
Thank you so much. There's been a lot of awareness campaigns through various donors, whether UNICEF, World Bank, GIZ, and many others, even local authorities themselves, to try and educate the residents on how to use the sewers in an appropriate manner. So that one I can assure you it's been happening. It's really at residential stage. But I think what needs to be more emphasized is the issue of the industrial waste, because that is the most dangerous one. The industrial waste, yes, EMA is trying, but I think because of the economy, most companies are not able to have their own site treatment plants before they discharge their waste into the sewer system. I'll give you an example of the soap making industry and the oil making industry. They really release very toxic chemicals into the system, which damage the pipes. And once those pipes are damaged, it is now the prerequisite, or not even for City Council, but even for EMA and every other stakeholder, to make sure that the policy is really looking into that issue. But when you look at the fines, they are not deterrent enough. Let's look at the EMA Act. Yes, there are fines there, but how much is it, for example, for you to stop, for example, United Refinery from releasing that waste into the sewer system, which is very damaging to the pipes? That's one of the issues. Like what Mr. Mavesera has said, it's very important for everyone to take care and take part in this issue of the challenge of the wastewater. We might educate the residents, we need to educate the industrialists, we need to educate even the policymakers as well, even the funders, that this thing is not just for local authorities or it's not just for the national government. But now the issue the stage at which we are now in terms of the infrastructure dilapidation is really like more like an engine overhaul, if I may say so. The demand for money or for funds to rehabilitate or to redo the whole system is beyond maybe what we can actually have for now. For example, we are talking of a budget system which local authorities use. If we were to really put the actual cost in the current budget or in the current year for that year, it means the rates and everything else have to go up, which we are not able to do so. So it's a vicious cycle. We need to make sure that we put our commitment as a nation, as a team, so that we make sure that the wastewater system, the wastewater challenge is addressed. Let me give an example for Harare. The issue of the wastewater discharge by industrialists, and maybe the failure by the current treatment system to treat what the industry is now producing. It's an issue of Harare as a local authority and also as industrialists. If they could put their on-site treatment plants as required by the law, then I don't think we'll be having a lot of pollution in the Manyame or in the Lake Chiwero River or the Lake Chiwero. So these are the things that we really need to look into. As much as we are saying EMA should be our police, but why should I be waiting for a police to come and tell me that what you're doing is wrong? This is my point that I'm trying to also put across. We need to continuously educate the industrialists. We need to continuously educate the residents on the appropriate use of sewers. Even the construction, the way we are constructing some of our houses, we are constructing them in such a manner that because of the current systems, we are supposed to inspect, but you find some drainage systems are well below the ground. When the rains comes, a lot of sand is finding its way into the sewer system. There's a lot of abuse, if I may say so, by the residents or by the users of the sewer. As we go in and block some of the issues, some of the sewers in the system, we are finding a lot of diapers in the manholes. For what reason? Why you want to put your diapers in the manholes, we don't know. We find a lot of TVs, those old TVs that we used to use with that gotans and we find them in the manholes. We find a lot of spoons, we find a lot of cutlery. We find sometimes, I'm sorry to say, even baby dumping is done in the manholes, and they block the manholes. So it's actually the use of the sewers. Are we using our sewers appropriately? And us as councils, as local authorities, we then must also do our part to maintain and to make sure that we do all these designs and everything else according to the plan and according to. So it takes everyone to make sure that we don't have these issues of cross-contamination, and so that it can compromise our water quality. So I think that is the main issue. Yes, we should not run away from our responsibility as a local authority. We are not using that as an excuse, but we want to emphasize that it is not a blame game anymore. Yes, we might say this one was supposed to do this one was supposed to do this then, but for how long are we going to continue with that kind of attitude? Yet the system continues to get old and it's not being upgraded, and we still continue to misuse the system.
Right.
That's my contribution for the day.
Thank you so much, Engineer Ngube. So I will just pose this question to all of you. Are we likely to see maybe a symposium where our engineers and our experts will come together to come up with a homegrown plan or strategy of creating or redoing or upgrading our water reticulation systems? Because I think we can agree that our system is medieval. As Munyara Dzimasia noted, that our plans are 25 years late. And here we are in 2021. We're going to be back here again in 2030, saying we did not achieve the sustainable development goal of provision of water. What can we do practically, like right now, if we were to say, what can be an action plan, an actionable that then sees us developing? We've got so many engineers as been highlighted. We have schools of technology, as Mr. Mawesera said, that sometimes the workmanship is there, but the technology lets us down. Is there a way of, building this synergy so that we come up with a homegrown solution to the peculiar challenges that Zimbabwe is currently facing, so that we can develop these systems and, water reticulation, water management, and water, systems that we need as a country? This, I'm just throwing it to any one of you can respond to that.
Yes, we
yes.
are.
No, you
Through
can
the
go on,
Zimbabwe,
engineer.
okay, through the Zimbabwe Institution of Engineers, there is a plan already that we are working on with the government for the infrastructure report card, where we are trying to record and map the current infrastructure as it is right now. And there are multi-stakeholders in there. The government is included, local authorities, engineers. All the engineers have come to a conclusion to say all the WASH people are also involved. Let's come up with our infrastructure report card, which we will then now be able to see and map what is the current status for each and every city or each and every sanitation where it doesn't exist. Because I think here we're just looking at mainly the issue of the cities, but water quality issue is there in the rural areas. None of them, maybe most of the rural areas, they don't exist, these treatment plants that we are talking about. People are just drinking bore water, maybe because it has been tested for chlorine or for the whatever, the biological systems, but the chemicals are not tested. So people, because there is no other alternative sources, people resort to just drinking bore water, not because it's good quality water, but that's the only resource that is available. So we are really doing that, and there's also a WASH sector that is now resident in the ministry, where all they are trying to put all the stakeholders through the National Action Committee, which is specifically targeting the WASH issues and the water quality issues as well. I don't know, maybe engineers can also add in addition to what I've just said.
Yes, it's very true what Engineer Ngwe is saying. But what I want to say, Yvonne, is that I own a laboratory, and as one of my contributions to this nation, I said my education has to contribute to the development of my country. And when I came back, I set on a path to set up laboratories, private laboratories with modern equipment to actually help, this country. So when we talk about issues of water quality and what we are saying here, Yvonne, we are not talking about issues that we heard from someone. I sign results for the lab every day, and I'm looking at the water quality nationally. And I have said to myself, it is very important that whenever we're making decisions about water, the first port of call is to understand the quality. You cannot make any decision about water, whether it's infrastructure or it's even whatever you want to talk about. You start with quality. What kind of water am I talking about? But then if you look around, Yvonne, we don't have that infrastructure around. Councils are supposed to have labs at water treatment plants. Councils are supposed to have labs at wastewater treatment plants, so that you understand whether your wastewater treatment plant is working or it's not working. You need to understand whether your water treatment plant is working or it's not working. If it's working to what level? What is it that the water treatment plant cannot remove? What is it that the wastewater treatment plant itself cannot remove? And this notion of people thinking that we are always resorting to groundwater, to boreholes. Groundwater is not the safest. If you want to know the reality of the issue is that there is a lot of contamination in boreholes, especially in Harare. I see results every day, Yvonne. My lab is going around testing water, not just in Harare, but nationally now. We are testing water in Mutare. We are testing water even in the Shimanimani region affected by Cyclone Idai. There are certain trends that we have seen. Water is not safe, especially groundwater. It's not safe. People need to understand. People need to understand that because water is coming out of a borehole, it doesn't mean that it's safe water. Right now, if you look at the trends from the early 2000s, each time there is rain, it's followed by cholera outbreaks. Why? It's because the pollution that has been sitting in this leaking wastewater treatment plant reticulation pipes in sewer pipes, it now moves to points of negative pressure, which are the balls. You are obstructing from the balls, and it creates negative pressure there. So pollution moves towards the borehole now. You see, so I want people to know that it's not always safe to drink water from the borehole. It's known in our local authorities that there are boreholes, point A, B, and C, that are making people sick. And the other issue is the issue of macrorrhoza. Macrorrhozas are making the water sources very dangerous because they are putting in heavy metals. And these guys, they will put heavy metals here, and then the council is abstracting water 6 kilometers downstream. And they are taking in water with heavy metals that people are drinking because the water treatment plant cannot remove that. You see? So I want also to come to say this, Yvonne. Each time the minister is sitting down, Minister of Finance is saying, I want to allocate so much money to Harare City Council to treat water at Morton Jaffrey. And he has a figure that he has. My question is, what exactly are we removing? Is it known? Because if it's known, then definitely we should be able to say, guys, let us improve this system. We cannot keep on removing a lot of money from fiscus and giving to City of Harare to treat water, and we don't really understand what quality of water we have there.
Right. Thank you so much, Engineer Mbiza. We're still talking. I need to read the comments that the people.
Yes.
Okay, you go ahead and round up. Then Mr. Mawesera comes in.
I want to round up by saying, Yvonne, I think it's important that even government, when they're making decisions, they make decisions from an informed standpoint. Because right now I am doing quality tests for City of Harare in most of their sources, and even in the reticulation system. And we are seeing a lot of pollution in there. And then we keep on hearing that, so much money has been put, so much money has been put. There was money, there was 144 million, and then we are still at the same point. What are we really doing? Whatever we are doing, let's make these decisions from an informed standpoint. And I would like to say the local people that we have here, they know what's happening. Sit down with them, get to really understand what's happening. The problem we have also as Zimbabweans is that whenever things are said by the foreigners and white skin, they are believed. And we've got no faith in the local people that we have here. But these foreigners, when they come here, they look for us. They look for our data. They look for our information. We tell them these things, and then they give you reports. In the end, they go away with that, and there's no implementation of these things. You see now. So that's very dangerous. And also, I want to finish off by talking about people who are saying they are receiving coffee in their taps. People need to understand that water treatment involves coagulants. Engineer Ngulu was talking about aluminum sulfate. So what then happens is most of these water treatment plants, they are put into overdrive. And there is a process called coagulation and flocculation, which needs to be given time to happen within the infrastructure as water treatment plant. But if you put the plants into overdrive because you want to produce more water per time to give people, this process doesn't get finished within the water treatment plants. It gets finished in the pipes now. And when now you open your water, it's now having the sludge that was supposed to remain in the water treatment plant. And that is aluminum sulfate sludge that people are receiving at their taps. And it's not that it's sewer. It's not always sewer, but these are remnants of the sludge that was supposed to remain in the water treatment plant, but we are putting it into overdrive. So it's even.
Still, I can't drink it, can I?
Aluminum sulfate has negative health effects. I'm sorry to say, things like Alzheimer and all those things. But it's important that we have infrastructure that is capable to take care of the current demand. Let us expand our infrastructure accordingly. Let us interrogate the technology, whether it's still necessary or we need to move to the next level. And we need to do these things together as Zimbabweans. All stakeholders should be involved.
And if I receive that coffee in my, should I boil the water or I should just abandon it and go and buy water elsewhere, purified water?
I would not say that abandon the water. Water, you can always have so many other uses for water, but it is not healthy to drink water with aluminum sulfate.
Right. So it is safe for residents to really say that we're not receiving water, clean water on our taps.
Oh, whether you are receiving clean water or not, you will see it on your tap. You don't have to be told. You will see it. But the thing is, Yvonne, people shouldn't always rely on boiling the water. Because when you boil this water, what we are also doing is, remember, it's water with organic matter and chlorine. We are using chlorine. We are forming the carcinogens I was talking about earlier on, the trihalomethanes. And they are more cancerous, they are more dangerous than even the aluminum sulfate alone. You see?
Right.
So,
right. I want to read comments that that are coming through. Munyaradzi Masia say, I have an idea. Get those soldiers out to fix the water problem of the country. There's an enormous workmanship in the country to fix our upcoming cholera and other diseases. Thank you so much for your contribution. Tenita Wanda Mayimbo, you say water in rural areas is the cleanest filtered water where there is no pollution. There's no need for water treatment plants in the rural areas. Boreholes in urban areas are the ones contaminated. I mean, I think that's a good idea, but at the same time, we need to think expansion, we need to think growth. So it is that failure to plan around, our areas that we feel are safe that has led us to where we are now. Munyaradzi, you went on to ask the question, what happened to the labs that were there before? Yet those people working in those municipalities are still getting paid. I can't buy what you are saying. Mr. Mawe said, I want you to come through and respond to this question. Why are we saying there are no labs? Yet when the treatment plants were put in place, the laboratories were also put in place. When things were working functionally, our pipes were maintained, everything was maintained to ensure that there was water. Yes, Engineer Ncube, you explained about the economic meltdown that we went through, but still there were workers who were getting paid at the councils. Why could they not, in the least, maintain the infrastructure that was there? Mr. Mawesera, over to you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. I would want to plead with people that we don't just look at one aspect of a chain that brings us quality water. As I said initially, the treatment plant is just one aspect of the clean water or quality water that we
Mr. Mawesera, you may also want to just lift your device. We're getting that feedback again.
Okay. So what I was saying was to plead with colleagues, all the people in Zimbabwe, to avoid the situation of just picking on one thing where there is a chain of events that leads to quality water. Yes, we can focus on the treatment plant, fine, but even if we fix the treatment plant and it's working very well to produce clean water, that does not guarantee quality water at the end of the tape, because there are several other players. Going back to the question, in the past, you will find that the socio-economic situation was slightly different. during that era, you actually had people inspecting your houses, people from council inspecting your houses to make sure that there was hygiene in your house. Now it's not happening. That social thing has gone. We are no longer concerned. If you did anything wrong, there was every member of community would report, because if you didn't report, the whole community would suffer the consequences. So if anyone damaged the pipe, you would definitely go and report. So you find that even our reporting as a community has gone down. And what I think we need to do now, because we have realized that there has been that socio-economic problem that we have as a community. We no longer are operating as a community. We are operating as individuals. We need to come back to operate as a community, especially in urban areas, because we can't afford not to be a community, because the same pipe that brings water to one suburb takes it to the other suburb, and whatever happens in one suburb affects the rest of the local authority. Where I think we should go from now is a scientific development approach. You find that all countries, all continents, Zimbabwe included, when they have a national problem, they come up with a national plan. And the national plan should be informed by research. Now we have a serious problem. We need to get down as a nation and say, where is our problem? We have a study on the wash situation of this country. And once we have established, then we say, what are our priorities? We come up with a plan. What are our priorities? How do we fund these priorities? Which one comes first? Is it the treatment plant? Is it the reticulation? Is it the education of the public? Where do we start? But that comes after a study has been done, and everyone sits around that, the results of that study, to say, this is what has been found by experts. What are we going to do? And I mean everybody, so that we are not pointing a finger at council, at national government, or at citizens, or at churches, or political parties, but we are saying, this is our problem. These are the results that have come up, that are not contaminated by anything. They are from experts. And they've recommended that we do 1, 2, 3, 4. And after what period do we need to do these things? How much money do we need to do these things? Do we need to borrow from outside? Do we need partners to come and assist us? Can we raise funds? And then we deal with that issue. So as a way forward, in my view, we need to come together, and I'm happy our government is good at planning. We have Vision 2030. Where is WASH in Vision 2030? We can push this in. Right now, if we do a study, we agree, we say this should come into as a program, and this is what we are going to do. And each one of us must take responsibility. That's the first thing. Take responsibility, all of us, to say, I have a contribution to this problem. I can contribute to the solution.
Right, we need to round up this conversation. Duncan Manyonda comes through and says, but we travel, and what is it that we're not doing that every other nation is doing? Not coffee. Yes, what is it that other nations are doing well that we're failing to do, in order for us to to give people proper water? Hlahla is very happy with you, Messi, and Happy Mo. Thank you so much for coming through, Hlahla. You also say infrastructure has a lifespan. I want to believe there is need to reinvest in the whole system. And I think that's what our panelists have been emphasizing, that we need to reinvest in the whole system. And you also add that research should inform policy in Zimbabwe. That's buttressing what Mr. Mavesera was just saying. Duncan Manyonda, you say Zimbabwe bodo haiwa sanctions, economic meltdown, haiwa. And Hlahla says, where is WASH in Vision 2030? My take-home point. Thank you so much, Mr. Mavesera, for raising that. Indeed, as part of the whole process, we're trying as Zimbabwe Daily to push for such conversations so that the nation and policymakers begin to take notice of the need to place these issues on a priority. I want to thank you, Mr. Mavesera. I want to thank you, Engineer Messi Ncube, all the way from Lawayo. And I want to thank you, Engineer Happy Mo Mpiza, for coming through onto the platform. It was lit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zimbabwe, for joining me on Zimbabwe Daily as we introduced this watch series. We were looking at a number of topics, and we continue to bring you this special water series. Our last episode is on next week on Tuesday at the same time, when we are looking at water, human rights, and gender, because we feel that this water issue is a human rights issue. It has also been genderized. So we need to look at water, human rights, and gender in our next episode of the special water series. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your contributions. I'll come, Mawesera, you say, Nyaradzi Masia, you say Mawesera, you can't plead for lack of planning. Tell me, how many years have you worked as an engineer? Because you're supposed to give government the figures that what vision have ever worked in Zimbabwe. Please don't just support nonsense. Okay, I think these are the real things. These are the real issues that we're grappling with. We are wondering, there have been people at the helm of these institutions for the past, I don't know how many years. What have they been doing? But now, if we continue asking what they have not done, we will not get to our place of solution. We need to nip corruption in the bud. We need to nip latency in the bud, and we need to start working towards developing our country. This is Zimbabwe Daily, and my time is up. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of day. God bless you.